Alright, hello and good evening, everybody. Sadie is caught up at the moment, and I said I would go live at 9:30, so, well, here we are. So, hopefully Sadie will be able to join us here in a bit. But in the meantime, I'm just going to start off the podcast by talking in and amongst ourselves for a bit. So, I figure Sadie will jump in when she's able to. So, we had some technical, and I shouldn't say technical, scheduling difficulties today that were unplanned for. So, but yes, hello, Roa. Thank you for stopping in. I did fix my chat here, by the way, so you guys can now see yourselves when you chat again. I apologize, it's been down for a few weeks. I don't really know when it went down. I just know it went down, and it was a pain in the butt to fix. So, yeah, I agree. Thank you very much for stopping in, Roa. It's always good to see you. I am still having a lot of mouth pain at the moment, so I'm trying to power through it at the moment, but hopefully it'll get better as it continues to heal. It's not as bad as it was, but wow, it's starting to hurt. I'm not gonna lie. I'm getting tired of it. The first few days, I'm like, I'll tough it out, I'll tough it out. The longer I go, the more it hurts. I should say the more it hurts, but the more I'm getting tired of it hurting. As long as it's healing, I sure hope it is. It's hard to tell, honestly, right now. I'm getting frustrated. Let's put it that way. But yes. So this is Jackstands and Zipties. This is a new podcast Sadie and I are going to be starting, where we're going to be talking cars, car history, car anything we feel like, really. Her and I are both mechanical minds for sure. That's kind of what we do. So we figured what a better way to hang out with each other than chill and have some fun. Carmageddon. That is technically a topic we could cover. No, that's Carmageddon. Yeah, that's definitely Carmageddon. So fun fact, actually. I know, Roa, you've seen my car. Be prepared for new pictures. I don't have any taken yet, but I'm hoping to get some this week. Last night, I was not on stream because I was actually out at my parents' house, where the new S chassis lives. They have graciously given me a spot in their outside garage to let me work in, where they're letting me store the car, and I was able to take off the front bumper, the fenders, and I pretty much took off the entire rear light system and the entire interior. My car! My car! My car! I can't do the guitar riff. But yeah, so I was able to get the entire interior of my car completely gutted. There's seriously the only things left are the front seat belts, which I'm working on removing, the steering column, and dashboard, which are much more integrated and hard to remove than just your normal everyday rest of the parts. Like, you can't just, carpet and seats, seats, you take a few bolts out, you remove them, it's good to go. Carpet, you take it out, you remove it, it's good to go. Center consoles, trim panels, all that stuff. As you can imagine, the steering wheel and column, they're kind of bolted in a little better. And the dashboard itself is just very large and hard to unbolt, just because it's very large and hard to unbolt. But we're hoping to have the interior. I'd like to have the dashboard out of it next, and the steering column, and then I'd also like to start getting it on jackstands for removal of front and rear subframes, so I can start working on the bodywork. So I'm hoping by next time I work on it, I will have a car that is ready for service, to where I can actually start, I found out it does have a little bit of left front damage, nothing catastrophic, but I'd like to fix that. I would like to fix, the crash damage, and I'd like to fix up a lot of, the little dings and dents and imperfections in the car. We'll work on that as we go, but then I can actually start, I'd like to get the other, subframes and components off and stuff, too. That way I can mess with stuff and make sure it's all nice and clean and shiny and ready for the new rebuild on it. So, should be fun. I'm excited. The car's got a lot of potential, I think, so I'll be interested to see what it looks like when I'm all done with it. But yeah, so this is going to be a podcast, like I said, mostly focusing on cars, car content. Sadie is, of course, a car enthusiast, and I would call her a car historian. She's very much into the history and she knows a lot of the obscure vehicles that even I haven't heard of. She's very, very good at knowing some of the things where I'm like, she's like, oh yeah, that's XYZ of a car, and I'm thinking, you know that car? Really? Like that obscure car that raced that one race 75 years ago? She'll just know them, and it's like, okay, I would have never known that. So she's really good at the car history and the like I said, the very unique and bespoke stuff. She has a very thorough knowledge of stuff like that. So she will be awesome for history and statistical information. And I, of course, am the. I mean, I literally make my living as a car mechanic, and I'm also an enthusiast. So we kind of have the historian and the mechanic. So you have the theoretical, and she's also good at theoretical stuff. She's very much a engineer. So you have the engineer historian, and then you have the greasy knucks mechanic enthusiast. So we very much have two different sides of the car world to us. She is very much one way, and I am very much the other, and that works out really well for talking about stuff, because she sees stuff I never get to. Violet, return to standby mode. I didn't realize I was still in race mode. Sometimes I just forget to change. But yeah, so that should be really helpful for information and stuff like that. I'm excited to see where this goes, so... but yeah, so that's what this is hopefully going to become. Like I said, hopefully she'll be able to join us. I sent her a message. She said her parents were making her do something, and she was busy, so I'm assuming she'll be here as soon as she can. My guess is she's caught up talking with them. Relatable. Yeah. Oh, that's what it was. Okay. Sorry, I had a pinned message I was checking to see what it was. But yeah, so I guess I'll start off by talking about what I did car related this weekend, other than my S chassis. Of course, I did work on that. Other things in the car world, I found a Cars and Coffee local to me on Saturday morning. Drove over to there and checked it out. Hey, there she is.
Or that it took a while.
Oh, you're good. I figured you'd catch up with us eventually.
You already started without me, so hello.
Oh, I literally just was telling everybody what this was going to be and how it was going to work and stuff, and going over what I had done over the weekend and stuff. So you really didn't miss anything. I was just getting us set up was all.
All right, cool.
So yeah, I had a time slot set, so I kind of had to go live.
Well, I'm gonna say on side B. Hi, my name is Aurora Mercedes. I am a Peregrine Falcon VTuber, Race Queen VTuber, and I'm into a lot of cars. I'm a car enthusiast. I like car history as well, and for some odd reason, I have a knack for aerodynamics.
Well, I mean, yeah. you are quite literally a bird, so that does make at least a little bit of sense, since that's literally a part of what you do.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, so you already used to show Jackstands and Zipties, so...
Yeah. Yeah. So I was actually saying something about how you were kind of the engineer / historian between the two of us, and I'm more of the greasy knucks mechanic enthusiast kind of guy. So you've got theoretical versus practical application. So it works out well that we're kind of dual-sided like that. You see one side of the car world, I see more of the other.
Well, and then by the time that you reflect on me, I would say, okay, then I would examine it on physical paper, and if you prove it to me that I'm probably wrong, I'm probably wrong.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, definitely. So we're not gonna skim over anything. We're just gonna go. I wouldn't say go straight into it. because we've been talking about it for like over a week now, right?
Oh yeah, pretty much. I mean, we're just gonna. I mean, what did you say you wanted to talk about on this one? Was it was something like
The Le Mans,
old Le Mans
essentially.
cars?
We started, yeah, we started at a spiel about Le Mans, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know this, but it's been 100 years. It's been 100 years
Oh yeah,
since
because
they started Le Mans. I
this
didn't
year
realize
was
it,
the.
right?
I forgot about that because
The hundred.
I actually
Yeah.
watched some of the live stream of Le Mans this year because I was closely following the Garage 56 entry from NASCAR and Hendrick Motorsports with their number 24 Camaro ZL1 Next Gen Cup car.
It's so bizarre how things got into that. Well, it's not really the first time that they got into that position. It's not.
I mean, they've had experimental entries before. I just, in particular, I'm like, oh, cool. They put headlights, a practical arrow, and like an actual like. I don't think they had a door. I think they still had to go in and out of the window. But I'm like, they actually made a cup car with like headlights that could race at night. And I'm like, that's sick. Like that was why I saw the first pictures of it, and I'm like, I didn't know what it was. They just unveiled the paint scheme, and then they showed a picture of the car starting, and I'm like, oh, that's got like, oh, that's for Le Mans. Yeah, that's sick. I'm interested now because they've had some cool Le Mans cars over the years.
I thought, hang on. Back then, yeah, no, it was not just this year. It wasn't just this year when they ran NASCAR at Le Mans. You know what? When they also did it
Did they
back
do
then?
it another time? Oh wait, they had a NASCAR race there, didn't they? At one point.
No. It was full 24 of Le Mans. I took a quick glance at it. 1977.
Oh yeah, they raced. Says 76. What I found here.
70 was yeah. It was 76.
Yeah,
It
I'm
was a
looking.
Ford, right?
They
It was a
had.
Ford or a Torino.
No, it was a Charger of all things. 76. Oh yeah,
Oh,
there was a Torino as well. A Dodge Charger and a Ford Torino. That's weird.
huh.
God, that's strange seeing a cup car or like a stock car style like that built for.
Cutting through the air,
Yeah,
cutting through
that's.
the air at Rascas, and at Michelin Corner. It's like it's surreal why Americans decided. Well, it's not really the decision because you want to know what happened back at the 70s, right?
Yeah, oil crisis.
Yeah, the oil crisis, and they want to promote their cars for sales. They got to do something about it. I wouldn't be surprised anyway this year, considering the fact that honestly, in my opinion, other than the hypercars running it, honestly, is the fact that it's still a dull sport after you go on 24 hours. Some
I,
interesting things might happen in 24 hours. Like for example, like I think it was last year that the Ford lights. I was looking at Ford GT40. The lights went out for a whole 45 minutes at nighttime.
oof. Yeah, that makes things tricky.
Yeah.
I do like this. I was looking at this article, looking at some of the pictures. They actually have a picture of a Torino from '76 against a wide body Porsche. I can't tell what corner it is. It's a really zoomed in photo, but I do like because this one of the I think McGriffith says I think that was one of the drivers. He says it was a great experience. The most impressive thing was the sound. All the little Porsches sound like bumblebees. Then we'd roll by with these big block V8s running straight pipes and no mufflers. It shook the ground and people loved it. That sounds a lot like Garage 56 this year. Because that was what the main complaint was with the American V8 was that the stock car would go by every 4 minutes and wake everybody up again.
Was it a hang on. If I remember correctly, it was a you're looking at a black and white photo, right?
Yeah, it was on Motor Trend.
Yeah. It's yeah, number 58 Porsche.
Yep.
It's back then I think they still had the air cooled at
Yeah,
1970s.
water cooled didn't come in until the late 90s.
Yeah, late 90s, yeah. And that's why they sounded like bumblebees is because it's just the air intake.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Well, that and the fact that
honestly,
they're the flat six always has a unique sound to it. It's kind of growly like that. It just kind of buzzes, whereas you get that big
right,
thundering cross plane. Like okay, cross plane versus flat plane crank V8s. The cross plane is very low and thundery, while the flat plane is like very high and windy.
considering the fact that that just sounds so magnificent nowadays, we can't exactly repeat that anymore.
I
But
love both versions of V8s because it's like hearing the flat plane crank Corvette go on the new Z06 versus the cross plane crank, you get like American Thunder, but then you also get like American Banshee, and it's like I can't get enough of both of them. They're
the
so
howling of
nice.
the right at
Oh,
about 7,500 RPM, just
oh,
screaming, going to over 200 miles
oh
an hour near
bec-
Mulsanne Strait.
and because they can wind so much higher on the flat plane, those V8s on the flat plane crank, you're used to hearing that V8 noise at low RPM. So hearing that just whine and pitch as it continues to just climb and climb to what seems endlessly, just as it seems to peak, it goes that pinch further, and then they pull the shifter and do it all over again, and it's like, yes, I want more of that. It sounds so awesome.
You know, out of all the engineering marvels, right?
Uh
Let's
huh.
start all the way in the beginning.
Yeah, because there are a lot of engineering marvels in Le Mans for sure.
3-liter engines. Let's start it at that.
3 liter engines. Was that what they used to run like in the beginning?
Yeah, 3-liter. It was homologated to 3 liters.
Which
Um,
back then was like nothing because people would have it was a 9.1 liter straight six gasoline engine making 80 horsepower because that was all they knew how to make.
it's not even 80 horsepower. You want to know what's hilarious about this, right? So let's just say we'll pull up a pretty familiar car that we all know because this came out in Forza, which is a Bentley 3-liter.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's why it's 3 liters. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's so bizarre, right? Um, it was an unregulated horsepower amount. How unregulated, you ask?
Well, I
It
mean,
couldn't even.
unregulated to me means go for infinite as long as you meet the displacement rules. But I mean, let's be
Well,
real.
it's not
Back in that
necessarily
time,
even.
unlimited horsepower is probably like whoa, 100.
It's not even 100. My
Oh
guy,
God.
we're talking about. Okay, you want to know how stupid it is?
Sure.
Bentley 3-liter, when it was released in Forza, had a power rating of 18.
18 horsepower.
That's it.
Oof. For reference, hang on a minute.
A horse, a horse, can run faster than 18 horses.
Oh yeah, that's because what is it? One horse is equal to like how much horsepower?
About about 10, because they can go pretty quick. They can
Yeah,
go pretty quick because that's muscle torque. You're talking about like biological muscle torque,
yeah.
and it can go up to 50 miles an hour.
For reference, the Performance 2023 Toyota Camry TRD, which is the Toyota Racing Division version of it, makes 301 horsepower from a 3.5 liter V6. I wonder what. Hang on, let me actually get a better example because I know for a fact this car had a 3 liter engine because it's kind of the
Yeah,
running
it's
joke.
okay. So the engine was an overhead cam 4-valve inline four.
Yeah,
It's a four banger.
yeah, big force. Now the nearest car I can think that has an exact 3 liter engine, a 2003 Ford Taurus with a twin cam dual overhead, the dual overhead, which was the actually I take that back, not twin cam, the dual overhead cam because it was technically a 4 cam engine, made 200 horsepower, and that was like the most boring average sedan in the world at the time. I mean, this you could not get more bland than a Ford Taurus, and that made 200
So
horsepower on the same displacement. That's wild that they
Okay,
only made 18 horse.
the hilarious thing about this is that it's 70 horsepower. It's 70 horsepower before the wheel power loss. Luckily, these things could actually go. I'm. This is the stupidest thing, right? And hear me out. By the time that it got to the Le Mans floor, that 3 liter was already banging about 78 horsepower. I think I was going for the road version, but the Le Mans version could at least, believe it or not, 78 horsepower, right?
Yeah, that's actually fairly quick.
Yeah, 78 horsepower, fairly big car with how many? How much is the wheel? Okay, the weight on this engine was it's pretty damn heavy. That's all I can say to you. But it could go up to. I think this is the first car that touched 100 miles an hour. The Super Sports model, the Bentley Super Sports 3 liter, touched 100 miles an hour back in 1923.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That could go shit your pants back then, which is fair. This is fair. This is fair.
Oh, for sure.
And
it said, yeah, it could reach 90 whole miles an hour. The Super Sport could exceed 100.
but again, this is shit your pants speed at 1923. Holy shit!
Yeah,
dude.
that was still pretty quick in 1923.
I mean, like, yeah, I bet you a guy with a top hat and a mustache who's going about his day, going 35 miles an hour in his old Model T or something.
Which, well, let's be real, with no safety equipment and suspension that really couldn't handle 100 miles an hour. We're talking 78 horsepower and what was in essence a glorified Amish buggy. It was not much better.
Yeah, even then, like, he's just looking at that guy and say, "Oh, you rapscallions going 100 miles." Well, if you think about it, 100 miles an hour on the freeway is still fucking dangerous.
Yeah, it's still quick by today's standards, but okay, I did 80 miles an hour today in my Nissan, and I down the highway, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is quick, but I'm certainly not on the edge of control here. I'm in the cruise at 80 miles an hour. 80 miles an hour back then was like, please, dear Lord, don't let me meet Jesus. Like, I'm gonna die. Like that's just scary fast.
Mind you, this 3 liter actually reigned a decent. The 3 liters actually reigned a decent while, considering the fact that I think it was. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm just looking at this. So the 3 liters was changed into 5 liters at 1925. I don't know how the 5 liter was. Let me see this one. It was a Loren Dietrich B36. I don't even know these car brands anymore.
A lot of those aren't around anymore.
Of course. Okay, so it's another coach car. So the first release on Lorraine Dietrich was a German car but had 12 horsepower. Okay, that makes sense. So they used a 5 liter. Probably these are like one of the few cars that is starting. Oh, here's a familiar entry: Sunbeam.
Oh yeah, Sunbeam. That's actually a name I know.
Yeah, Sunbeam also had a 3 liter Super Sports that finished second. 4 laps behind. That's actually really good pacing, though.
Oh yeah,
almost beat a 5 liter. Damn. You say almost beat a 5 liter, even though they're behind 4 laps, but try to be fair.
In 24 hours, only being behind 4 laps really isn't as much as it sounds.
Okay, when did Le Mans actually started getting insane? Because this is like we're going on litered engine inline. Let me see when they slowly started going out of places. Okay, we're still at 3 liters. At 1926, the liter displacement still at 19.
Sadie, do you want to know when it got really crazy?
When?
Well, I just found out when the first ever Le Mans race broke the 100-mile-an-hour average.
Average. Okay.
Yeah.
When was it?
You're never gonna believe who it was.
Okay.
Our boy Duncan Hamilton.
Motherfucker.
Seriously. If you guys don't know this story, if you don't follow Lamaze or you've never heard of this, so in 1953, of course, Jaguar. This is about 30 years later. They're already running over 100 miles an hour average during the race. So they're averaging 100 miles an hour even with driver changes and pit stops for tires and fuel and everything else. Well, apparently Duncan Hamilton was the driver for Jaguar in 1953, among a couple of others. I believe it was a guy named Rolt. I don't know who it was. I'm not seeing a first name.
I'm going to be frank with you here, both of them. I'll let you continue the story, but I want to preface what the hell they did.
Tony Rolt was his name, it looks like.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to preface what they did, but do continue the story about this motherfucker right here, this bad Chad.
So Tony Rolt and Duncan Hamilton try to qualify for the 1953 24 Hours of Le Mans. They're disqualified for practicing in their car that happened to have the same racing number as another car on the circuit. So they disqualified them for this.
Okay, look. What was that 722 again? I forgot what his name is.
What, Duncan or?
No. Who disqualified them?
It doesn't say.
Driver. It's another.
It doesn't say who disqualified them in this.
Yeah, it's another famous driver. Whoever drove the 722 Mercedes Benz. I forgot what his name is.
That I'm not seeing in this article.
Let's look up 722 on Google real quick. Who was it? Sterling Moss. It was Sterling Moss. Yeah, it was Sterling Moss that disqualified him.
Sterling. Okay, so it was Sterling Moss. So either way, Duncan and Tony Rolt get DQ'd. So, because they're upset, they just came to race and now they're not racing, they head out to the local pub and get absolutely wasted. Of course, right about this time, the racing directors of the race come through and they're like, all right, we're lifting your suspension. You can race now. Now, today's world, these guys would be done. There's no way on earth these guys would be allowed anywhere near that racetrack in their stupor. This is 1953. Because it's 1953 and they didn't care back then, they just hopped in the car and started racing.
So here's
completely drunk.
I'm going to preface this. For every driver switch that they did, they had to drink cognac.
No, brandy. Brandy.
Oh, it was brandy?
Yeah, it was brandy.
It was brandy. Okay. Brandy before they had to switch the car because coffee actually made them fall asleep.
It was on the opposite. I think it said, what was it? Yeah, when racing was underway, they tried to sober Duncan Hamilton up by giving him coffee during the pit stops, but he refused it, saying it made his arms twitch. Instead, he was given brandy. Which is absolutely ridiculous in the racing world. But my favorite part is it apparently did help, because keep in mind, this was back before they wore full race helmets, and because these are race cars, they have like tiny little windshields, just barely enough to help deflect the air. So I'm sure being drunk really helped when Duncan Hamilton took a bird to the face and broke his nose at 130 miles an hour.
Yeah, it was a crow. He basically made fried chicken in the middle of the track.
Yeah,
going over 100 miles an hour.
With his face.
And he did not. He did not give a shit.
Well, I'm guessing. I'm guessing when he, Mr. Daddy Longlegs is in my chat. He says fast food.
I know, right? Fuck, man. No pun intended. Seriously, because it's so bizarre.
Like, I mean, that was that argument. How many times did you have to slap a chicken to cook it? I guess Duncan found out it wasn't one.
I don't. Obviously, I don't condone like drinking and driving, but mind you, here's the funny thing, right? Here's the funny thing. He continued to do this in every GT race he participated in from 1956 all the way to 1967.
Yeah,
Drinking and driving.
pretty
And
much.
you know what's the most hilarious thing? You know what's the most hilarious thing about this guy, right?
Uh-huh.
He kept podiuming.
Yeah, that's impressive when you can be that good of a
He,
driver. Thank you for the
he kept
hydrate, by the way.
podiuming, drinking and driving. He kept podiuming, drinking and driving.
Yeah. So,
This guy,
well, I mean,
okay, this guy.
let's be real here. I'm not condoning drinking and driving, but the more you do it, statistically, you will be better at it. I'm not saying that's a good reason to do it, but maybe that's why. I mean, the more you do something, the better you get. So.
Oh yeah, no shit. You know what's hilarious? The only reason why he stopped racing in 1967 is because FIA found out about it. That's the reason why he stopped racing is because he got caught red-handed drinking brandy in the middle of the race.
Probably, yeah. That's yeah. I could see an FIA official. What the? Is he? Like,
Did you just take a shot of brandy?
Yeah, that was the first time the Dr. Dre was ever invented. It was before Dr. Dre was born when that FIA official went, "Hold up." Drinking, yeah.
So,
Roa says drinking and driving results to this, and he put my Ryuko intensifies and 240 spin emote in my chat.
a wise man once told me, "It's the unskilled dunk drivers who give us skilled ones a bad rep."
Oh God. Here you go, Sadie. To shed more light on Duncan Hamilton, I'm reading his wiki right now. Apparently, in one point in 1947, he was driving his MG R-Type to the Brighton Speed Trials, going down a hill near Guildford.
This was when he was in F1.
Yeah.
This was when he was in F1, right?
So he said he saw the splendid honeycomb radiator of a Bugatti in the outside rearview mirror. So he moved over to wave it past, and the car hung back. Further down the hill, the Bugatti accelerated, drawing level with Hamilton, at which point he saw there was no one in it, which is when he realized that was the car he was towing.
That's my Bugatti.
He said,
"That's my Bugatti. Oh no."
Yeah, Hamilton had forgot he was towing the Bugatti, and the story ends with a lamppost that was snapped in two. Now that's a bad day. Now I've heard of waking up in a new Bugatti. I have not heard wrecking the Bugatti I was towing because I forgot it was back there.
So, back in time. We'll go further back in time, okay? This motherfucker accidentally, quote unquote, accidentally crashed a Royal Air Force biplane in the mid 1930s because he accidentally pressed the eject button.
That sounds about right.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
And,
that's wow, he had a lot of other wins I didn't realize. He won
I'm telling you.
He won the 1956 24-hour or 12 hours of Reims. He won the that is the 24 hours of Le Mans. What else did he win?
Dude, you know what's hilarious about this guy?
What?
Right? I'm telling you, he was by the time that he won Le Mans, he just went and practiced just drinking and driving.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm telling you, that's all he did because
he won
look at all his results. Keep in mind that he won Le Mans. Look at all his results.
First, second, third, first, second, third, first, second, third, first. And that was in the Grand Prix de Paris and the 24 hours of Reims again, where he won. He won the Johnson's Trophy, the 24 hours of Le Mans in 53, and he won the Coup de Paris in 54 too. This dude's crazy. I just can't.
And he's just been drinking and driving.
Yeah, hi, Coy. How's it going? Thanks for stopping in, Coy. Glad you could make it. We're having our first episode of the podcast, so. But yeah, that's this guy is a
dude. Okay, now, and here's the really weird Chad way to go out of this, right? So after Le Mans, he obviously retired, right?
Yeah.
Nice life out of all his winnings, and he had a nice long life. And out of all things that this guy would have died on, you think it's liver failure, right? No, it was lung cancer.
Huh, of all things.
It was lung cancer at
That
74.
brother. Well, I mean, he actually lived pretty long then for being somebody who was of that age. 80s was
Yeah.
80s was old, a lot older back then.
Oh my God, Duncan. Yeah,
But
that guy's goated. I'm pretty
well,
sure.
okay,
But
keep in mind that was the first time they averaged over 100 miles an hour, right?
yeah,
All
that's the first time they averaged 100 miles an hour at that point.
11 years later, they were
So
now they weren't averaging, but they were already breaking 200 miles an hour just 11 years later.
So yeah, 11 years later, that's when Ford versus Ferrari happened.
No, not quite.
Right.
That's short of that. That's 63. That was 53.
1964?
So this is 64.
53, 64. Yeah, no. Oh,
One of
early
my
prototypes. That's when they started. Yeah, that's when they started with the mid-engine chassis stuff.
this is still a front engine car that I want to talk about. Okay, I sleep now. Y'all have fun. Yeah, sleep well, Coy. Have a good day at school tomorrow.
Cobra? Was it the Cobra?
No.
Cobra Daytona?
Well, yeah, the Daytona, because of course Carroll Shelby was a big purveyor in the world of Le Mans in the '60s, and AC the AC Ace that he put a big Ford engine in and made the Shelby Cobra was of course a big hit. However, they kind of sucked at Le Mans, which, I mean, if you've ever seen a Shelby Cobra with its big gaping mouth and open top roadster design, doesn't exactly scream sleek 200-mile-an-hour speeder. And I guess the story went that one of his engineers came to him and they're like, Shelby, you're gonna have to make the body more aerodynamic. And I think who was it? I think it was
Peter Brock. Peter Brock.
Was it Peter Brock? Because I know that I think Shelby and Ferrari were both quoted saying something similar along the lines of like, the only way to faster is more power or something. They both had like similar quotes along the lines of Shelby and Ferrari were both like, just put a bigger engine in it. And Peter Brock's like, bro, hear me out. Let's make it sleeker. And I guess Shelby's like, all right, but if it doesn't work, you're fired. So they put this ridiculous aerodynamic body over top of the Cobra's chassis. And oh my god, these are some of my favorite cars. If I ever built like a super performance car or like a Factory 5, I would build a Daytona replica. That's what I would want. They're just so pretty.
Considering the fact that 1964 Le Mans was just, I mean, it did work. Considering the fact that I think it was Dan Gurney and Bondurant that raced that. Oh, yeah, it is. It was, that's the first time. It was 1964 when they want to basically flick the middle finger at Ferrari. But unfortunately, at 1964, Ferrari still came out on top.
Yeah.
Prototype 275P, which unfortunately, mid-engine still kind of had that mid-engine advantage.
Which is crazy.
Get that. Okay, get the fact that it had a V12, 4-liter V12 at 350 horsepower.
Wait, which one is this?
It's the 275P.
275P.
And yeah, they almost got it.
Is this a
with the
Ferrari? There it is. Yeah, fun fact, if you actually Google 275P, it is a Solberg 275P polyester filter cartridge blower vacuum pump, 9 5/8 inch, height 8 inch inner diameter filter for $130.28 on Amazon. Not what I was looking for. I'm looking for the fit eye.
Yeah, dude, these guys.
Wow, can I just say that is
I grip on like Le Mans, right?
Uh-huh.
When was their record scratched?
I will say, I'm aware it's a two-time winner of Le Mans, but God, that is not a good-looking car. Like the front looks fine, but it gets to the back and it looks like a how,
Looks like a disappointed dinosaur.
a little bit. My biggest problem was with the hoop in the back. I understand why it's there, but it's in the wrong spot of the car to the point it looks weird. Like it looks like the handle to a toolbox was stuck on top of a car. I
Well,
don't
if you think,
I don't
I was
like
gonna say,
that.
if you think about it, they're not really off their style. They want to just get results.
Oh no, and I'm aware of that. That's why I said I will fully admit, great car. Personally, not a fan of how it looks.
The only, I think the Ferrari chassis only started looking good when it was the 1966 Le Mans.
Yeah, but by the time Ford versus Ferrari, they did look a lot better.
Yeah, because they got to take advantage of the fact that aerodynamic ruling starting to basically started to get attention because of some other races back then. I think it was just Formula One when Lotus introduced mid-engine vehicles with aerodynamics.
Uh huh.
Uh, yeah, 1966.
It's. I will say it's funny because of course 66 to 69 was Ford versus Ferrari. That was the GT40. Whoops. Did you ever look at what a 1970 Le Mans car looks like? It was like all of a sudden.
Group, I think it was early Le Mans experiment prototypes that are starting to resemble the very uncanny familiarity of C.
Yeah,
We'll get
this is where they
we'll
start
get
looking like spaceship like. Really, really wide, big, really big like rear hips on them.
yeah. You know, it's the introduction of the Porsche 917 as well. I think it was 1971.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 1971 Le Mans was the one that because I know it was 917 that ended Ford reigns. Let's see. Yep, it is 917K at 1970.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's basically the peak of prototypes. It was a
Yeah.
917K first. They still had that. They still had that flat 12. It was a flat 12 engine. What the?
Oh yeah. Back then they had flat. They had 12-cylinder boxers. Because you know that's normal.
Was
And
that the reason why there's like a fan on top of the engine?
probably the only way they could cool it.
It's like, holy shit, that's a big ass motor. Well, then again, I could see it because like that's what the you cheeky little bastards. I see it now.
Trying to look at where the see. I'll tell you what. Right here, this is the cars I don't like are like the 2010 Le Mans cars. Because like through the 80s and 90s, they started getting that spaceshipy look to them, which it was okay. And you know, you had cars like the 787B in
And
the
then
late
they started
80s,
getting
or was that
then they
early
started
90s?
getting they started getting bubbly 2008.
Yeah, and
2008 they started getting
by
bubbly.
10 they just kind of look like they look funky. They look goofy. They look out of shit. They don't look like a car. They look like something else. I can't exactly explain it. It looks like
They try to put headlights on a Formula One car.
pretty much, yeah, but now I won't even say Formula One or IndyCar. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that one. It looks like they tried to like snug up like an Indy car and put fenders on it that have headlights in them. Is what it looks like to me, and a
So
roof.
prototypes, LMPs. The LMP project started right after the GT era, but let's just tone it down before we go skip to 2010 because
Yeah,
there are some significant differences in defining
Yeah.
defining how the early prototypes actually got from there to Group C in the first place.
Oh yeah, I was just trying. I knew there was one I hated, and I wanted to find it because I'm like, which ones did I like and not like? Because like by modern day, like the Ferrari that won this year, I actually thought that looked good, but like 15 years ago, that kind of sucked.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, oh yeah, I forgot. The 1970 Le Mans had Steve. They had a movie adaptation with Steve McQueen.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know they did that.
So it was directed by John Sturgis, and they purchased a 908.
That's pretty rad.
Oh, like, I guess that's Americans' foray to actually promoting the sport even further. But hey, stuff goes like that. You don't even know what we'll find out in a couple of years, really.
Yeah.
Dear God, okay. So, by the way, mind you, the average speed on these things were already hitting about 225. Moment that you started in 917.
That's
Because
crazy.
you want to know, right? Right. So we haven't talked about this. The Mulsanne Strait.
Uh huh.
The Mulsanne Strait. Let's talk about it for a second.
Oh yeah, because they've
The
had to
Mulsanne.
change this over the years.
They had to change it so much, right? Just because of safety regulations,
Uh
right?
huh.
So the Mulsanne Strait. How long is the Mulsanne Strait? You ask? How long is it?
How I don't know how long that straight. I want to think it's like a couple miles, isn't it? Is it? Is it not a couple miles or so?
So Mulsanne Strait is 3 miles, 3.7 miles.
That's
So going
longer than I
touching,
thought it was.
yeah, 4 miles
Oops.
of asphalt speed. All right.
Uh huh.
So that's the reason why some of these cars that are straight 12 are just climbing and climbing and climbing in terms of like speed, acceleration, power, just the limit of like, okay, maybe if I pull the trigger fast enough, I won't care about the rest of the corners. Just take my advantage to the Mulsanne Straight and the other corner, which is the Indianapolis.
Yeah, and I suppose that does make sense to a degree, but the problem with that is that uh, even banking on all your speed, there's still a lot of slower corners at Le Mans, and even
But you
if you're
gotta
banking on the dead long straight, even without the new chicanes they've implemented since then, there's only so fast you can go before you have to start getting into ludicrous numbers of power or ludicrous bits of aero.
So this is the reason why the 917 LH was a thing, was because of the compromisation, because they were getting caught at around 1972. The 1972 chassis of the 917 LH was I think it was the last time that they used that, and yeah, they got messed up. I think it was the Matra Simca's. Yeah, Matra Simca is a very it's starting to get that Group C shape. You look up a Matra Simca MS670 right now. That's like it's almost starting to go for Group C here. You can see it.
Oh,
It's
yep.
yeah, it's starting to get to looking like Group C.
Yeah, I don't
Because
see
it's
these are
three
these
hundred
these are the cars I don't like. These are
yeah,
some of them.
three
I yeah,
four laps.
it's impressive what it can do. I do not like the look.
Bubbly, right? It's bubbly.
It's bubbly and it's flat with one big spire shooting off the top of it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that is not an attractive vehicle to me.
See what's going on. When did they start going for the new regs? They still had the Matra Simcas. It was a and then they started going the yeah, everyone's just starting to go for the bubbly look because of the fact that Matra Simca made it first. And I think it was the 908 LH by Porsche that they started to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hello. Uh, Martini Racing was a Group 2.
I
This
didn't.
is this is the famous Martini Racing Porsche 911 was at 1974. They made a name here.
Oh, okay.
They are. It was a 911
Somehow that
that
doesn't
got second
surprise
place.
me.
Yeah, it's a
Fun fact:
GT.
Martini, like Martini and Rossi, that company that sponsors them and like the rally cars and stuff like that for Lancia.
Hmm?
I didn't know. I always thought they were an alcohol brand. Turns out they're not. All they make is mixer vermouth.
I mean, it will make sense considering the fact that it's more of a it's more of a base than a no, it's more of a topper than a base. So
I just didn't realize. I figured that'd be like really expensive stuff. Yeah, it turns out it's like 12 or $15 a bottle or something. I passed it in the C store the one day. They have an alcohol aisle, and there were other people in the other aisle, so I just ducked down through the alcohol aisle to walk up to the register. I'm not usually down there because I don't drink, but I walked through the aisle and I'm like, wait, I know that logo. And I went back and I'm like, yeah, that's the racing. Like, yeah, I see them sponsoring racing, and I'm like, wait, that's all that costs? Really? I had no idea it was that cheap. I thought that was kind of interesting. I figured that would have been some expensive stuff.
damn, oh, let's go for the bubble era. Okay. So what it is in the mid 1970s to the late 1970s is what we call the bubble era.
I can kind of see it.
Yeah, and then
I
oh,
looked up at
okay.
like 80s cars, and those are the ones that looked like they were shaped with like a cleaver out of a block of clay. It's literally just a square with a triangular front end on it. Like, really not much to the 80s ones, is there?
No, by the time you get to the 80s, then it's just Group C.
Yeah,
I
it's
think 80
that's when they
start
go
of Group.
full Group C.
Yeah, it okay. So it was yeah, it's still bubbly. I think 1980s was the turn of the technology era.
Oh yeah, because you know what they look like? They look like if somebody described a McLaren F1 over the phone.
Okay, so here's another interesting era. 1979. Do you think this
79.
is yeah, this is the turning point
I'm
because a
looking.
95 won that thing.
I typed in 79 Le Mans. It comes up with the Pontiac Le Mans. For those of you who
We
don't know,
got
the 79 Pontiac Le Mans sucked.
so it was the all right. So the regulations ACO is starting to rescind off roofs at 1980s.
Uh huh.
So now they have roofs again,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's the reason why they started converting more roofed cars, and they started to go less bubbly now. Because the one car that won this thing, mind you, the average speed on this one was about 155 miles.
That's pretty good.
So the car that won that was a Rondo M379,
Huh.
and it was using an Ella. It's a 3-liter V8.
That's pretty sick.
Oh yeah, Group 6. It's still under Group 6, but I wonder when they actually started going straight up Group C. Was it 1985?
I think it was around
1980?
that time.
No, 1982. Just
Was it 82?
1982. Yeah, because it's a Porsche 956.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it was a Porsche 956, and uh it's just a Porsche ridden top 5.
Why does that not surprise me?
Yeah, because they started abusing the aerodynamic system more than everybody else.
Yeah.
by Jackie Ickx. Obviously, already a legendary racer in Formula One. Why not put him in the? Why not put him in a Porsche? Oh man, Rossman Porsche, Rossman's Porsche. Yep, the very familiar Group C. Oh, okay, there it is. Group C started at 1983. Actually. 1982 was not really the official start of it, but 1983 was.
Jeez.
And that's when the Rossman Porsche 956, 956, 956, 956. And a little team out there at top nine. And my favorite team that was in Le Mans was Sauber. That
Oh yeah,
little Sauber broke the top 10.
that's impressive for a little team like that.
Well, they started around a decent history here. Sauber AG, they started at 1970 from Formula 1.
Jeez. Oh yeah,
But
because
yeah, Sauber
I forgot they were in F1, weren't they?
yeah, Sauber C7. Can you look up Sauber C7 real quick?
Sauber C7. Yeah, these are the
See,
ones that I was talking about that look like they're just like made with a cleaver. It's just like a square with a front nose cone on it.
yeah, that's the engineering of Group C. If you look up C7, Porsche 956, the Nissan
Oh, this no,
R89.
I take that back. These actually have like that dovetail or the teardrop shape to the back of them. That's what
Yeah,
it looks like. It looks like a teardrop that got surrounded by a brick.
teardrop surrounded by brick is still pretty damn aerodynamic, and it cuts air like
Oh,
butter.
oh, for sure.
I think 235, 240 now.
Something
Yeah,
like
that's the
that.
speed that we're trapping on the freaking Mulsanne Straight. It's 235, 240.
Yeah, that's why they put those chicanes in there.
No, no, no. They didn't put the chicanes in yet.
No, no, but those kinds of speeds, and one incident I know that's coming up, are one of the big reasons why those got put in. You
Yeah.
cannot have people doing nearly 250 miles an hour with 1970s and 80s safety systems. People get hurt. That's not like people get
Well,
hurt. People would get hurt now.
it's not necessarily the reason why that thing was over there. They actually posted those corners before then. Do you want to know the reason why they put those corners in? And I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, so when Group C was divided now from 1986 through 1989, right?
Uh huh.
At 1987, there was a team out there. It was a Peugeot. It was not a Peugeot, but I think was it a Peugeot?
I do not
But
know.
it was a one-off team. They literally went in there to say, "Okay, we're gonna go for the fastest recorded Le Mans straight attempt ever."
Oh God,
They went 275 miles an hour.
that's just dangerous.
It was 1987. These guys obviously didn't win, right? These guys obviously didn't win. So they just, at least it was the untouchable record for Le Mans for a while.
Jeez, yeah, that I can
So
imagine
not for a while,
why.
for like untouchable forever. It hasn't been touched at all anymore.
Well, yeah, nobody else. I don't think anybody would be stupid enough to try that.
Yeah,
You gotta have a death
but
wish.
here's the hilarious part. Now touching to 1989, the Sauber C9 won. And you know what it was average? You know what the highest trap speed was on that car?
Uh
It was 200. Mind you, this was 200 plus already. At 1989, was
huh.
going 55 miles an hour.
That's fast. Now, see, this car at least has a little bit more to it. I don't know what it is, but the C9 does look a bit better.
This is why it's my favorite car, other than the C11. But
I haven't seen the
still,
C11. Let me look.
it's the same almost nine,
Very similar, yeah.
and it's just I don't understand it. But I think when the official results came in after the 1989, I think the officials in FIA were like, okay, maybe you need to step back a bit on the speed part
Yeah.
because you're taking advantage of that way too much. The Porsche 962 behind it was about 4 laps down. It was both the Sauber C9s in 1989 that won first and second. The Porsche was way behind, going 245 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's just dumb fast, is what that is.
Right?
I'm doing
You got
245, boss. Sorry I lost. Wait, you
you
lost?
got you got the cornering and you got the cornering and you got the speed.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're gonna lose.
Yeah, pretty much. I thought this was interesting. I found an article. The tortures that a Le Mans car has to deal with. And mind you, this is for a Porsche 911 RSR. 20,000 gear shifts over the course of the Le Mans weekend.
Sounds about right.
The shocks are completely compressed to their maximum. What is it? Yeah. Where's it? Where was that number at? Yeah, the system is compressed to its limit 20 times a lap, meaning that it receives almost 7,000 direct shock hits during the entire race distance. And what was the other one?
At that point, it's just marketing to whatever brand of like parts that you want to go for.
Yeah.
'Cause it is what it is. It's the general adage goes as what is it? Race on Sunday, sell on Monday.
Yeah.
Same goes with so
Oh, yeah.
right.
Oh, here you go. Yeah, the brakes are used 4,000 times. And the brake pads and rotors go to 400 degrees Celsius.
And this is why they usually have a 8 hour shift replacement.
Pretty.
If they do replace it for after a set amount of hours, you will have a mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, because you have to let stuff cool. And then one of my personal favorites. Um, where's it at? Yeah, spark plug fires.
Again,
28
those are the
million times.
Yep, this is also the mandatory pit stop. The
Golly.
regular mandatory pit stops was added in the mid '90s.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of '90s, uh, when they introduced the corners, because everybody was like arms racing on that,
Uh huh.
there was one team that was trying to get as much results as possible, and that's Toyota.
Well, no surprise there. Toyota's always pushing the racing envelope.
Yeah, so I'm gonna preface this before anything happens here. So, have you ever heard of the story why the 90 CV is called the rib breaker?
Uh-uh.
So here's the thing: they have Fuji Speedway in Japan where they had to test these things. We had like famous drivers ranging from James Hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got Frank Williams. You also have basically a stellar drivers, right? Just to test this car.
I was gonna make a really crude joke there about James Hunt's brother Mike, but I'm not gonna.
But anyway, so
Sorry,
these
it had to be said.
these guys, mind you, they had a testing, right?
Uh huh.
And at 180 miles an hour taking turn 1 to turn 2. You only have to tap the brakes a bit, and you're still going at about 120.
Uh-huh.
Turn 2, 120. That's a significant sharp corner.
Yeah.
You could take that comfortably. And then and the unfortunate part is, even if he could take that comfortably, the creature comfort in that car was so absent, to the point that your seatbelt is your death trap.
That's not fun.
Yeah, internal bleeding after I think 30 minutes of testing.
Ooh. Yeah, that's definitely not supposed to happen.
Fast car. Don't get me wrong, it's a fast car.
I can hear that at Toyota. Well, how'd the car do? Great. It lasted the whole 20 minutes. What do you mean? The driver didn't. Like, well, I did hear. How did Jeremy Clarkson say that? He said because they drove he raced a Mercedes-Benz AMG McLaren SLR or whatever it was,
Right.
from London to Oslo. Well,
Right.
Hammond and May got a plane and a boat. So he at the end of all of that, he said it has come to his attention that the weakest part of the modern car is the squidgy organic bit in the middle. And,
You.
yes, yeah, the driver. That is the weakest part of a. And I honestly, I'll back that up. I have a truck with 220,000 miles on it. This truck has been with me now for 24,000 miles of its life. And other than basic maintenance, it really has yet to do anything troublesome for me yet. It is just a veritable tank of a car. I got in this thing and I drove it to upstate New York with a tow dolly and then drove it all the way back with a car. I jumped
You're
it
comfortable in that. You're comfortable in that. That's the good thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I've driven it across the state and out of state multiple times. I drove it from where I live here in Ohio to Charlotte, North Carolina in basically, I'll say 3/4 of a day, with only one stop to pick my friend up. I literally pulled into his. I made sure I filled up. I pulled out of my place after filling up. I pulled out. I left my house, but I stopped at the gas station in my town. I drove a little bit, maybe an hour, picked up my friend, drove all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina on a single tank of fuel, nonstop, all the way through Virginia, or West Virginia, Virginia, and all of North Carolina pretty much, almost to the South Carolina border at Charlotte, where I went to the NASCAR track. And that truck, seriously, for what was it, 6 or 8 hours? It was somewhere in that range. Just ran. It got done. It was sitting there ready to do it all over again. I'm like, that's amazing to me. Like, it's so impressive how good modern cars can be. And that's a 20-year-old truck.
I could tell you right now. Yeah, I mean, we've gotten to the point where creature comforts are kind of like a necessity to the driver, only because of the fact that you want to get the driver safely from point A to point B.
Oh yeah. Well, have you ever had the pleasure of driving something really old?
I think it was a 1956 Chevrolet. It's one of the 555s.
Oh, so you drove a Tri-5 like a Bel Air then?
Yeah, it's a Bel Air-ish. It's a wagon tail. I forgot what it is.
Oh, Nomad.
Yeah, it's Chevrolet Nomad.
That's sick. The Nomads are sweet. But so you've had a similar experience. I have driven every Corvette C1 to C5. So it was a second model C1. So like the the red and white one that you drive in the Horizon 2 against the train.
Right.
I've driven one of those. Was not red and white, sadly, but it was that body style, the C1. I have driven a C2, the like with the Stinger hood. I've driven a Swoop Fender C3. I owned a C4, and I've had the pleasure of now driving a C5 Corvette. I've also driven my dad's 69 Firebird. I've driven a 71 and 73 MGB. And I can fully say, with all of my heart, even that new C5 Corvette, I would not want to drive it more than an hour or two without a break. They are taxing to drive. Like, you get done, especially my dad. My dad's Firebird has a power steering system in it. I don't know what kind of special power steering system this was, but it's the more power you ask of it, the more it gives. So like you can just be doing 60 mile an hour down the highway and turn the steering wheel to the lock with ease, like 2 fingers. Just whoop, whoop, turn it. It'll go that fast. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's weird to drive. Oh no, I pressed a button. Crap.
And you got that limp mode steering on that Firebird, honestly. Oh, you know what? Also debuted in 1990 Le Mans with the Group C.
What?
Little team out there trying to experiment with a Wankel.
Oh, Mazda.
Finished 20th.
That's not bad for a rotary.
767.
Is that what they started on? Was a 767 back then?
Started with a 757.
Huh.
757 had... Whoa, oh, hang on. Let me go back in time here. All right, that's what it is. So, back then at C Junior class, at 1983, 24 Hours of Le Mans was a 717C. And it was a 2-rotor 13B Wankel engine. Basically, that same Wankel engine that was a 2-rotor to an RX-7, you're technically using a 717 engine.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, yeah, then it became a 737, which was also a 13B Wankel double rotor. The moment that they started adding more rotors was a 3-rotor 757, which was also at Group C, but it didn't finish.
Because what did they end up running? It was a 4-rotor, wasn't it?
767 had a 4-rotor. That's the first time they actually added the 4th rotor.
Dang. That's crazy.
It finally finished 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Yeah, because that's getting a rotary to finish anything other than a trip onto the tow truck is sometimes a challenge. Not to be cruel, I'm just being realistic here.
Mind you, they also had a lack of horsepower too, because they were only competing with 600 horsepower compared to the rest of the group.
True, that too.
That 1990 Le Mans, because of the curves, they were competing against a Jaguar XJR12.
Oh.
Which had a 7-liter V12.
That's a lot. Oh, Sadie,
yeah.
that's what it is. They have
what?
It's a special power steering gearbox is what my dad's has. It's a quick ratio.
Was it comfortable when you shifted?
His is automatic.
Oh, okay. But it was manual.
Yeah, I will say I've driven a lot of the Corvettes I've driven were manual, including my Gen 4 that I had. The C4 of mine was manual. My dad's is an automatic Firebird. I think the most uncomfortable stick shift I ever drove was actually an 85 IROC. I got to drive an 85 IROC on a test drive once. And I hated it. The clutch pedal felt like it was up by the steering wheel. The gas pedal I felt like was on the asphalt. And the brake pedal was lost somewhere in between the middle of it. I've never been more uncomfortable driving, not to mention the clutch. The
floaty.
No.
Floaty.
The clutch pedal travel length felt like it was a football field long. Like you pushed the clutch down for.
And you're not even sure if your engine's gonna grind. Ew.
What?
No, you said it was gonna. It feels like a football field, right? You have that really bad anxiety where you're gonna grind a transmission.
Yeah,
Ew.
Let me see if I can find a image of the 85.
I'm still laughing at the fact that by the time that I was born, which was 1991, I only see that information because I am going 32 this year. Is the fact that the R26B from the 787B Mazda at the 1991 Le Mans was the most overpowered tech ever that they had to ban it next year.
Yeah. Copy image.
They
Okay.
said we handed you too much power on creating your motor because like it was less than it met the requirement. So fuck off. You can't do that anymore.
No kidding. Sadie, I'm going to drop a picture in the chat here on the Discord. This is the pedal
Yes,
box
sir.
that was out of like the car that I drove. Look at the pedal position. That's an 85 IROC.
What are you doing?
Keep in mind, all three of those pedals have the same end point to like where they hit the floor. Look how high that clutch pedal is.
American engineering. This is the reason why Le Mans didn't really have any American teams for like a long ass time
To
during
drive
19.
to drive that comfortably, you'd have to sit with the gear shifter up your bottom to be able to be at the right angle to have those three pedals even with each other.
Did they even have a decent sliding chair to the point that you're at least close by and say, okay, maybe you can drive this a little comfortably?
You could at least move the seat up, but the problem was to reach the gas pedal, you had to sit closer to the pedals. But then the clutch pedal was too close, so you drive with one leg straight out, your right leg, and your left leg at a 90-degree angle to reach the clutch pedal. It sucked. This is why I fell in love with my S chassis. I can get in, I sit down, the clutch pedal is within like a half an inch of the gas, and the brake is about where the clutch is. I'm like, okay, I can. And when I push the gas and the clutch down evenly with both feet, both pedals hit the ground at the same time with my legs straight. I've obviously tested this not running, and it's so much better. Thank you, Japanese engineering.
Yeah, that's a Japanese engineering. And speaking of which, and go for Japanese engineering, in 1992, Le Mans was won by Peugeot Talbot Sport.
Well, that's
905.
That's a car I'm not familiar with.
The Peugeot 905 Evo had a very. It's another bubbly car. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, I hate these.
Yeah,
I'll give it credit. It's fast. Not my
it
thing.
is fast. It went. I think the official top end time on the what do you call it? The top end that it got on the Indianapolis Straight was 225 miles an hour.
That's quick.
It is. And then second place was the Spine Breaker.
Dang. See, my favorite Le Mans cars came just a couple years after these. The McLaren AMG CLK GTR and the Porsche 911 GT1 Strassen version.
Yeah, because that's when they introduced the GT1 class.
Yeah, those are the cars I really like. Those things
LMGT1.
awesome.
You know what's hilarious, right?
What?
The LMGT1, when they introduced it, was someone took they tried to circumvent out the rules and say, okay, what if we sold all our Le Mans cars and quote it as a production vehicle, because we still have the prototype, right? So they used the prototype, sold it off to a dealership, or not dealer, but like a dealer that will sell it as a quote unquote new car called Dower.
Dower?
So it's
what?
not Porsche. It's Dower 962.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of like how they had to do with, well, I won't say like they did, but like Roof did for a while.
Yeah, so Dower 962 sold these cars and they basically circumvented the Group C rule, and then they won because it's still a 962 and it's still stupidly quicker than the field.
Kind of like how Lancia circumvented the rules by only making half and then distracting everyone while they switched them out.
So they found that Le Mans found that out and quickly dismissed all of the teams that were sold on the Dower 962. And after 1994, 1995 came up, and luckily we got the you know what.
Yeah.
Then sweet good old F1 GTR.
Oh yeah, the F1 GTR dominated, and like I said, this was during the era of my favorite cars because the F1, it was good, but I hated the fact that it didn't get as much modification to make it like it looks kind of just like an F1, whereas the CLK GTR looked a lot different than its road going counterpart, and so did the especially excuse me with the 911 Strassen version. Both of those cars, I loved the body kits that came on them. They look so good.
I'm surprised that 1995 actually had a Honda NSX participate.
I'm not. I mean, I could see them doing that with the NSX back in those days. That sounds about right.
I'm also not. I'm not surprised. You know who drove this thing to 8th place?
No idea. Keiichi Tsuchiya?
Yes.
Of course, it was Keiichi Tsuchiya. The only, like, Japanese racing driver from the 90s that's, like, super, super relevant. There were two racing things from 90s Japan that were relevant in the world. Keiichi Tsuchiya and a blue GTR that said Calsonic on the side. Those are the two things in 90s Japan racing that mattered.
I'm pretty sure because JGTC was like having like that ace driver and say, okay, maybe we need to pay this guy.
Okay.
Kunimitsu Takahashi probably like unloaded his wallet for him.
Well, I mean, okay, Tsuchiya was so good that he was racing in Japan and he got bored of winning, so he started drifting the corners to show off because he's like, I'm tired of winning. I want to have some fun while I do it. When you're tired and bored of winning races, you know you're doing it a lot. Like that. The only person in the world who might know have an iota of how this feels in today's world would be about Lewis Hamilton circa 5 years ago or Max Verstappen now. Like, it's the only two people in the world who've been that dominant in the past, 10 years or so of winning races that are just like,
it's not even that anymore, considering the fact that some people can just swipe that immediately with enough training. No offense to that. With enough training, some people can swipe that title. Lewis Hamilton was only dominant because Ferrari was incompetent.
Well, okay, I will give them credit. Mercedes won like a load of races those few years that they were like super dominant. And I'm talking, okay, Max Verstappen has won what, 10 or did he win this weekend or was it Carlos Sainz?
Sainz won this weekend.
Sainz, okay, so Verstappen's streak was finally snapped. Verstappen won. Now, how many races are on the F1 calendar? 22, I think, is it?
22 races. Currently, he won 14 out of 15 races.
My point exactly. Now, I thought he'd... I didn't think he'd won all of the rest of them.
He won a lot. No. He didn't. He won 10 out of 15 races.
Is that what it was? Because I'm looking at. I think this is this year's schedule. Yeah.
He just broke Verstappen. He just broke Vettel's record.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, that 12 of like 14. That is stupid. When you win, it is And the only what was it? I think the only time that because
Question is
there's a
how,
Red
do-
Bull. There's both Red Bulls in the top three. One,
how
two,
dominant.
three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So out of 14 races, Max Verstappen has won 12. Um, is there? Yeah. The only other person to win was his partner, Sergio Perez. Red Bull has won every single race this year. It's either Perez or
Or
Verstappen up
Verstappen.
until this week when Sainz finally won one. Like,
And what's hilarious was because
what?
Verstappen had a penalty, and then Perez just didn't give a shit that day. So I was like,
Yeah. Like, that was the first race all year that Red Bull has not been on the podium at all, was this weekend at Singapore. Where it's Sainz, Norris, and Hamilton as a 1-2-3. That's the first time all year that Red Bull has not only not won, but not had a car on the podium. That is absolute dominance through the first half of the season. That is obnoxious. Like,
like
what?
telling you, Adrian Newey designed a car that's so stupid that it circumvented the rules while still being in the rules.
Yeah. I think
It's so.
I don't know how they're doing it, but that's crazy fast.
So right, let's continue the topic here. Like the most significant thing that happened in the '90s, right, was the introduction of the GT program, right,
And the flip.
and the flip.
Yeah.
That was 1999 too.
Yeah,
So it
that
was
was
hilarious.
that was almost 2000s, but that was the 90s. And it was actually one of my favorite cars, that CLK.
So it was a CLR, not the CLK.
Or right, CLR.
The
Not the
CLK.
drain cleaner CLR.
So the CLK actually had a different class back then. It was first on its class, definitely first on its class. It didn't really climb up there. Um, the one that it was competing against was Porsche, and yeah, it was decently up there.
Yeah, because the Strassen
It was
version
no, it was
that was
Spa.
after the F1 had left by that point.
It was a Spa. It was Spa. They were trying to compete against several McLarens because the field was generated with just everyone just going for the CLK. They said, "Okay, let's go for the Le Mans." Try to build a chassis for Le Mans, but it didn't really meet the GT1 regulation. So they tried to build a car with the GT1 regulation, and they had one major design flaw:
I don't.
wheelbase were too close. Wheelbase was too close.
Is that what caused it?
Yes,
I was
because
wondering.
when you're braking, right? The
Uh-huh.
closer your wheelbase is, the more prone the car's body is to wobbling, right?
Yeah.
Even on spring rates, so you're not even braking on spring rates, the car wobbles.
Yeah.
So car wobbles, unfortunately, because of the fact that Le Mans cars normally have like a really flat bottom. There's not really any air direction down there. On the Indianapolis straight, the straight with like the three technical corners, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it flipped.
Yep. That would do it.
You know what's hilarious, right? This car flipped through like 5 times.
Yeah.
Three
Yeah.
times at qualifying and 2 times in the actual race.
Yeah.
Both cars were out.
Yeah. That's not a good look. That was like that GTR that did it a couple years later. The one
It
that's
was
featured
2
in
hours.
Gran Turismo.
2 hours. It only lasted 2 hours. The car only lasted 2 hours.
If
And
it
the most
would
hilarious part is
Well, they had to
the
cut it
hilarious.
short. If it lasted more than 4 hours, they would have had to take it to see a doctor.
So it was. They didn't heed the warnings from
Oh,
all things. Eddie Irvine was a really good banger of a driver for Ferrari.
yeah.
Yeah, right. He's one of Michael Schumacher's best wingmen. Said that the car was not stable.
Yeah, when somebody with the last name of Schumacher tells you your car's not good, my advice, listen. That's kind of like, Jack Nicklaus telling you, yeah, man, your course kind of sucks. You don't continue building that course. Like that's not good. That's like Jessica Negri telling you your cosplay it needs work. Like it's time to go back to the drawing board.
Right. So when the driver tells you that the car is not good, the car is not good. And you know what's hilarious? He still ran out in the qualifying, and you know what happened in the qualifying?
He flipped. Yeah, that's
So you know what the Mercedes Benz people did?
no, I don't remember
When
what they did.
duct tape.
Ah,
Duct
yes.
tape orphans.
Now, they call that 100-mile-an-hour tape for a reason. They don't call it 200-mile-an-hour tape for a reason as well. It's like, just no. You don't use duct tape for. Just no. It's not how you fix race car. Like, even NASCAR uses expensive bear bond. They don't use duct tape for a reason. Come on, man.
F1 uses a specific carbon fiber lace tape to fix some of their stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that would be something F1 would do. Now I get, okay, NASCARs, they're a little less technical, and they're most of the time just looking to patch up a hole in the bodywork or keep a bumper on. So the bare bond makes sense. But when you're dealing with high tech, okay, what stock cars are what, 300 grand? F1 cars are what, 30 million? I get having a little better equipment for the F1 cars, but that's still like
So
you don't
and
you
here's the
don't
funny
see
part.
Red Bull on the grid
Use
duct
actual
taping the
duct
front
tape.
wing on. Like you don't.
So here's the funny part during this, okay? It's still qualifying. Got the car out. Eddie Irvine's still driving it. They got more fins and tried to lower the front suspension sensitivity, and it again.
Yeah. Not terribly auspicious. Not
So
a good start.
after the third flip, they said, okay, fine, we'll work on it overnight. There's no duct tape involved, at least overnight. They tried to adjust the nose shape for it, so that way it catches more air downwards instead of upwards.
Yeah, because
So they tested it in the wind tunnel.
Because
They tested
sudden
it in the wind
random
tunnel.
flips or something, you fix it overnight. It'll be fine.
Yeah, no.
It's like having
they
a
tested it
broken
in the
toe
wind
link.
tunnel. They tested this car in the wind tunnel, Soji.
Uh-huh.
It was fine mathematically. They didn't account the slopes on the road.
Yeah. Or when they were following traffic and not having they were in the dirty air, because that changes your downforce.
GT1 was in front of it. The GT1 was in front of it. It wasn't.
It's still dirty air.
It's still dirty air, but
It's not as bad.
the moment
Okay.
that they want to pass it, the moment that they want to pass that GT1 is when everything went to shit.
Yeah. Because that was when it jumped over the guardrail and it like went up.
You know what's hilarious about that driver who was driving that car? He still drives today, by the way. You know what his last name was? Dumbreck.
Oof.
Because it was a pretty dumb wreck.
Yeah, that's a bit of a red flag. It's like, it's like that's like hiring your next driver. What? So what's this guy's name? Car on fire. Like, what? You're hiring that guy? Yeah, he seems like a good guy. Why? Because you just like
The premonition.
Yeah, it's like it's like hiring a guy. It's like hiring a guy for a NASCAR pit crew, who you call Lugnut. And you've got him on catch can for the gas man. Like, why? Why? Like, no. It's just
The omen is right there and in front of you. You kind of buried yourself on this one.
pretty
Well,
much, yeah.
the most hilarious one is right after Peter Dumbreck's dumb wreck. Obviously they had to call in the other guy and said, "No, quit the program. We gotta go back to the pits and just retire this car entirely."
Yeah.
Right? Then the other car flipped on the way back.
Yep. That's not it's not good. Luckily, there haven't been much other like big instances since then, though. I don't think. Other than, I mean, there's sure been big wrecks, but no like big disasters like that since then.
No, luckily enough, funnily enough, there's not a lot of deaths in Le Mans anymore after the regs changed again, and Indianapolis Straight was, out of Mercedes' protest, was repaved. Out of all things. So,
Yeah. But I like how, like, also since I will say I like the look of these new cars, but I do hate the fact that all of the new like experimental like the LMP1 and LMP2 cars are all hybrids now. I really
Well,
don't like the fact, and hear me out on
welcome.
why. Watching the race this year, of course, I'm watching for the Garage 56 entry, just because I want to see how it does. Cool NASCAR Cup car. I'm watching NASCAR this year. They ran well. But I'm watching a fairly good race, and it's down. It's in the middle of the night. The lights are on and all of this, and all you can see is the glow of the headlights and the numbers, and it's down to one of the Ferraris and one of the Toyotas battling for first and second. And all of a sudden they cut to the Toyota and it's gone. And they start scanning all their cameras and they find it just parked at the side of the road with the driver climbing out of the passenger door and hopping over the fence. And you can just see the red light blinking in it. It had a hybrid system failure and they couldn't even attempt to repair it. If the hybrid system is triggered, the car is done.
Yeah,
And it's like,
the MGUK is such a really big hassle.
It's like-
honestly that's the point of it, really. By the
and I
time
mean, I get it was for safety, but I'm like, okay, some of the other cars, the one Porsche got wrecked really early, and they brought it back in. They put another nose on it, fixed up the front suspension, slapped it on the rear bumper, sent it on back out again. And I'm like, all right, that's racing. Oh, the car's wrecked? Well, we got 24 hours. Let's get back out there and make some laps. That car, no, they didn't even have a choice. The hybrid system had their hands tied. Get a flatbed, tow it off the track, and send it somewhere to be set down until they realize the battery's not going to explode. Like that sucks, is what that does. That sucks a lot. Both for the
I
competition.
think that was the introduction. That was the introduction of the LMP1 H series when Porsche and Audi were just like neck and neck and just an arms race, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, that was this year.
Yeah, I know it was this year, but I'm talking about like past. Just going for the topic still here.
Oh yeah.
Well, the R8, R18 to the Porsche 919 essentially was the same format. The only reason why they pushed hybridization is because of the 2014 program, where the FIA wants everything at net zero. So
I guess I was so sad because it killed some really good racing.
We had one. Early 2000s Le Mans was actually decent.
Yeah, that
Early
was.
2000s Le Mans.
And it's a shame because that's when like these modern cars look really cool, but it's like one little issue like that, and the best race on track is gone. It's over. It's done. Car's being towed off the track, and there's not even a chance to fix it. It's done. And I'm like, that was the best on track battle for like an hour.
I was gonna say, feature preference on any car manufacturer is not gonna lie, just the feature preference on any car manufacturer. So whoever just stumbles on our podcast, right?
Uh-huh.
Don't rely too much on computers. I would say like
Stellantis.
analog, yeah, analog. Make it mostly analog still, because if you're saying that the MGUK fails, this is why the MGUK is being removed at F1 in the first place. It's because they just want the battery power to be just as simple as a Prius.
Yeah.
Make it go. Like, just make it go 60 miles an hour just to get out of the pits quickly, and then go. And if the power fails in the hybrid system, make it have like an emergency shut off, but just make everything run on the uh, the actual what do you call it? The actual
The engine, like the IC,
engine.
the
Yeah,
ICE,
the
yeah.
ICU. Yeah, the ICE. Because there's still a kinetic pickup. I think it's because the kinetic pickup was also a factor. Because at that point, if you're running just an ICE, you're missing about 300 horsepower.
Well, not even that, because no, apparently they had a system on it. When the red light comes on, that means there's possible hybrid system damage, and they said because the batteries are so volatile, they cannot let it back out on track. And I'm like, come on, like,
Yeah, it would. The threat of it is it would explode.
yeah, and it's like I understand that, and I don't want the drivers out there. We'll just drive it anyways. No, I get that, but it was because that system was in the car to begin with that happened. And I'm like, man, that just like that sucks. I do like how it was cool hearing the Cadillacs do that though. They showed a clip of the Cadillac this year pulling away, and you hear it,
Like,
and you'd hear the V8 fire off, and I'm like,
you just
yes,
hear that sweet. I think it was an LT1,
yeah,
and it's just like it just boots up like that. Like, damn,
yeah. You hear
it
the
was like
electric
a silent
whine.
hybrid. Yeah, a silent electric whir for the first 5 seconds, and then like boom, like right in front of your face.
Yeah,
I
that
like that.
I'm like I thought that was a very cool thing to have, but I'm like it wasn't worth it to lose that on track battle between the Toyota and the Ferrari, and I'm like, oh, that sucked to watch that happen because I'm like that was the best on track battle. They were within a hand. They were close enough to each other that it was a question of like who would blink first. And car failure. And I'm like, what a shitty way to lose. Like that sucks. They didn't even get a chance to battle it, you know?
And you know what's hilarious is the fact that it was Kamui Kobayashi on the wheel too on that hour.
Yeah, which sucks because it's like, yeah, he's a good racer.
Ace driver for Formula One on a crappy car, trying to take on Vettel back then.
Yeah,
He's trying to take on back against a Ferrari only because of the fact that he got taken out because of a electrical failure.
but do you know he raced in the Indianapolis road course race this year?
How do you do?
Crappy, real crappy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is NASCAR. It's a different kind of
Oh
different
yeah.
kind of pedigree.
Ask
You can't exactly. Yeah,
Ask Jensen Button and Kimi Räikkönen how they know.
ask Jensen Button trying to race for Indy. Ask Alonso when he tried to run for Indy.
Yeah, it doesn't translate to stock cars very well.
Yeah, but anyway, so I was just looking at some past results, and as per normal, per usual, speaking of mechanical failure, this is just another iffy thing, right? So this is an unbreakable record in Le Mans today. It's an unbreakable record because the was a Toyota TSO 50 that broke the track record before the chicanes were added on the Mulsanne Straight. That's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
You were speaking about that electrical failure, right?
Uh huh.
You know what happened?
What?
Same car that broke the record in the track was first with 10 laps leading before second place.
Dang.
2 hours left in the race. 2 hours. This is back in 2019. 2 hours. You know what happened? You can fill in the blank here, Soji.
Electrical failure.
Yep.
Yep. That's why electrics in cars suck. It's like it's the worst. It's witchcraft.
We need it, but at the same time we don't.
Yeah. It's
That's
like it
that's
does make new cars more reliable and stuff like that. I won't argue with it, but when it gets taken too far, Jeeps, they it does end up hurting reliability.
I was gonna say, like, you could make a fast car. Look at Koenigsegg. They're still analog.
Yeah.
When you made the Yesco, there was still analog. The only reason why the Gamera 2300 was made is because Christian was bored. Christian decided to make this electric motor out of 700 horsepower. He was bored.
Yeah. Well, it's like, okay, you can use electrics to make a car run. Fuel injection's great and all that. I'm sorry, Chrysler in particular. I don't need a driver's front door module, driver's rear door module, passenger front door module, passenger rear door module, driver's seat module, passenger seat module, rear seat module, HVAC control module, radio control module, instrument cluster module. Seriously, like, just make it a radio. It doesn't have to be a computer.
Oh,
That's seriously everything in a Chrysler product, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, all of them from like 20, maybe even as early as '05 to like 2010 area and up, have a bespoke module that runs each door.
you're not a luxury brand. Okay, I was
Yeah,
gonna say Chrysler's not a luxury brand to do
you
that.
don't need that kind of stuff in your car. Like, it's a window switch. Give me power, give me ground, give me a fuse, and give me a switch that reverses the polarity of the motor. Done. Nope, gotta have a module to have a logic circuit to tell if it's going up or down based on how I press that switch. It's like, you still had to run 2 wires. You still had to give me the switch. You still had to put the motor in it. And you still had to put a fuse in it. And probably now a relay. You could have avoided all of that and just gave me a circuit and a switch. But no. It's dumb.
You're overcomplicating things over the fact that you could actually just wire the whole thing just in a unison wire and just like have it all like have just have a directory on it, really, just to make it like a little bit easier for you to actually decipher which one does which.
Yeah. And it's like,
Instead of like having a like separate module for everything.
yeah, or give me one body control module. Controls everything in the body.
Right.
Done. Easy.
So
And there are cars that do that have stuff like that. But it's too much.
again, it's technology and efficiency.
Yeah.
I usually look at this and I look at Tesla engineers. And I look at Tesla engineers and look back to the actual engineers. The actual engineers make those Tesla engineers look like monkeys.
Yeah.
So,
well, when you have 1 to 2 techs in every one of your service dealership or service centers that only do door handles because that's how bad your door handles suck, that tells you a lot about your build quality and engineering and design.
that's the. Well, you know what? Can we just conclude this thing right now as far as Le Mans go?
Yeah.
Because in 23 you got the starting of the tech, and from 2023 you got the ending of the tech. You started with something good, but you're slowly trying to make artificial competition look really bad with all this tech that's involved.
Yeah. Take the hybrid crap out. Give me just okay for LMP 1 and 2. I want batshit crazy aero. I want big ol' honkin' motors and really innovative suspension and like car design. These things should look like spaceships.
I was gonna say the only thing that the hybrid motors need to do is just make sure that you can launch that car 0 to 60 before your ICE engine starts, and that's about it.
Yeah,
it's just the engineer side in me talking. I'm just gonna say
you really have to keep
make sure that the car kicks.
Yeah, use
That's
it for like
all the battery's job is.
Or like how the P1 does it, where it fills in the gaps between the shifts. It's still a petrol car, but it has that electric assist for in between when that engine's just weak or between shifts to keep the momentum up. That way,
Right.
worst case scenario, if it fails, okay, you're just driving old school again. Like, I like the thought of that. And then I like,
You're still like only minus 50 horsepower, right?
yeah,
But you're still competing like
you could still
God knows.
theoretically drive and keep up with other people, even if you didn't have that system. It's just there as like an assistance.
And if you're saying, "Oh, well, how about the DRS? DRS needs an electronic measures." Like, dude, you're just dropping a flap wing. You can do that mechanically.
Yeah, I mean, okay, fine. You want to make it a simple a simple solenoid. Solenoids are extremely efficient and extremely reliable. Seriously, your starter in your car works with a solenoid, and that starter works for years before it fails. You could easily attach a solenoid to that flap. A really big, strong one. Just one big solenoid. Throw the switch, it's on. Throw the switch, it's off. Easy.
What is it like? Essentially, you're just saying here, just bring it back to Group C. Basically, Group C version 2.5.
Yes.
Where there's a minor hybridization system, except that you basically still have an aerodynamic set,
and make
aerodynamic set,
and make the hybrid system optional. You don't have to have it. It's just if you want it.
Also, preface, by the way, this set of races, the Endurance Series, the World Endurance Championship, is not really funded so much by the FIA.
No,
which
they're
I'm
just the
kind of
ones
sad
who
about.
they're just the ones who preside over it because the FIA's got their hands full with F1.
Yeah, but this is a really poorly funded motorsport.
That's true.
I'm going to say right now, because you want to know why? We're using YouTube to broadcast this.
Well, and let's be real. There's not a whole lot of modern people's attention spans cannot
To race
keep
for
up with a race of that
hours.
length.
That's 24 hours. You're watching this thing for 24 hours. You're not really watching 24 hours. It's much like the 24 hours at Daytona. They turn off the broadcast after 2 hours.
Yeah,
they know that they're gonna, you know.
I remember because I wanted to watch the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and I had the whole weekend off, and my parents were out of town, so I actually went and I saved up, and I'm like, it was like $6, so I set aside one day's worth of lunch money that week, and I spent $6 so I could watch that race. And I'm like, you'd spend that much going to a movie, so I didn't feel bad about doing it. And I remember I went to bed, I got up the next morning, and they were still racing, and I'm like, wow, and they still have like hours to go. I'm like, this is dumb.
Well, essentially,
it's cool,
like it's cool, but holy shit, dude, it's taxing.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's why they have driver shifts, right? They have driver shifts.
But yeah, you couldn't have one driver do that whole 24 hours. I mean, come on.
There was one instance where it was like mid 1960s where there was one driver that drove for 22 hours and they swapped it with his son that drove for like 2 hours.
Jeez. Yeah, that's a lot.
They quickly circumvented that only because of the fact that that's actually against OSHA in the first place.
Yeah, you can't run like that's just no. That's not even. It's not even safe to be. I could just see somebody trying that. How do you plan to stay up for the full 24 hours? And you see him. He's just standing there with a box of 5-Hour Energy, Monster, and Red Bull. Training.
Better be like fucking. Better be fucking ready for another gamer moment. So that car needs to have fucking cup holders.
Yeah. Yeah. I was feeling a little tired. So I opened up a G Fuel, and it's like, God. He just pounded Red Bulls down the Mulsanne. Like,
it's not even Red Bull at that point. It's powdered G Fuel.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what it is. Actually, that's probably all it was. It was just 2 G Fuels, a Monster, and a Red Bull. And they were poured into a mixer with a couple of 4 Locos. That was just the.
Oh no, you put the Four Locos and you're doing it Duncan Hamilton style all over
Yeah,
again.
I was gonna say, fun fact, 2 Red Bulls, 2 Monsters, a 5 hour in energy, and 2 4 Locos is actually technically classified as a racing fuel. I'm sure. Well, this stuff's
Oh
88
my lord.
octane. Oh man.
Oh man. I'm glad that this race exists. I'm glad that this form of racing exists.
Oh, for
World
sure.
Endurance Championship. World Endurance Championship. Keep going. Keep
Yes.
going. Because
Even if not, the 24 hours of Le Mans will still definitely persevere.
yep.
Good.
Considering the fact that it has so much like legacy,
Oh
from the
yeah.
point that drivers have to run across the track first before they have to start.
Not anymore.
To
They got rid of that.
yeah, to I have 8 hours to go. Some people are just in the pits, and some people are in the audience just sleeping safely and soundly, knowing that no car can crash.
Yeah, and then there are some who are sleeping in a tent trackside, being woken up every 5 minutes by a thundering NASCAR.
Yeah, God, Garage 56.
That was.
Keep innovating, guys. Keep innovating. That's all I'm saying.
I
Keep
want.
innovating.
I want that to be like. I want 36 of those on the grid at like. I don't know. We'll say.
Maybe just add that to the LMGT class anyway. Like,
That would
just have.
that would be rad. Cool. Well, the problem was
Yeah,
you'd have to
just.
add it to the you'd have to add it to the class above it, or you'd have to nerf the car because all the GT3 cars, well, it was blowing the doors off of them so bad that they
No, they're
actually
gonna.
started the car
They're
ahead of
gonna.
all the GT3s.
They're probably not gonna nerf it, but the GT3 cars have to be buffed.
Yeah, then that would be the
Oh,
other
that's all it
option.
is. Yeah, because think about it. GT3 cars have at least like a 600 horsepower cap.
Uh huh.
Raise it to 800, like the modern NAS cars at least have it at 800 horsepower without the restrictor plates. So
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you could do that, but I'm thinking like, give us the Lamaze package, and then just take them to like, I don't know, maybe like Sonoma and do a night race. With
I remember all of a sudden that there used to be like they used to host the 24 hours of Laguna Seca before, or 6 hours of Laguna Seca. Sorry.
that's sick.
And
Yeah, because
yeah,
you couldn't run Laguna Seca at night. Not with that. Not with
uh,
the corkscrew.
well, you'd be surprised.
You can just see
They've
somebody careening over the corkscrew.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, did I mention to you that the 787B won at around like 5:30 p.m. on Sunset?
Oh, that's
That's
cool.
that's the very first race that the 787B participated in before they actually switched to Le Mans, just so that way they could test it out.
That's sick.
Yeah. And I'm just going to mention to you right now, Sergi,
Uh huh.
we need more. Like I'm just seriously saying it over and over again, man. I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired, but I'm saying it like this.
Oh, same. I'm starting to get
Yeah,
tired too.
yeah. You're just like we're just concluding the podcast at this point.
Oh
To
yeah.
be honest, but yeah, I'm just saying, keep innovating, guys, because even like a small garage, from like Hicktown out of nowhere, probably picked up a VTEC or two, like a K series motor VTEC.
Yeah.
Have a
Put
what do you call
interesting
it?
motors in things that it shouldn't be in, and go do cool shit with it.
Yeah, because you don't know when you're gonna end up landing. Like you're probably gonna be the next Duncan Hamilton or something, or just the next Adrian Newey. I'm lucky. We're lucky that
Yeah. Maybe
next.
don't try to be like Duncan Hamilton. Maybe pick somebody a little better than Duncan Hamilton. don't don't
Uh,
don't drink bourbon before you race, please.
well, Adrian
Such.
Newey. Be the next Adrian Newey. Okay, be the next Adrian Newey. Invent some cool shit,
Yeah.
and see if we could step into the French crown jewel of motorsports.
Be like that guy on YouTube who put a K-swap in his Ferrari 355.
That was a thing. That was a
Yes,
cool
that
thing.
was a thing. I mean, hey, it makes a lot more power now, so.
Anyway, I'm just gonna conclude this stream because again I'm sleepy. So
Same, it's like
as
11:30 and I have work in the morning.
all right, so thanks for listening to the very first episode of Jackstands and Zip Ties. My
He's,
name is Aurora Mercedes.
I'm Soji Sakata, and we will catch you guys next time. I think we're going to have this, try to have maybe one a month or so, unless we get a little more ambitious.
October will be the next call because here's the thing: what you're gonna expect in this stream, not just like topics like these, right? Since we veered off topics like that, we're gonna just keep discussing on cars. Probably the next topic is gonna be what?
I hadn't really decided yet. I was going to ask you about that. Because I definitely like to
I
do
was
some like old NASCAR stuff at some point, and so
old
I definitely
NASCAR
also
stuff,
want to do some JDM
or
stuff too.
or the better topic to discuss yet, just rolled in.
Now, just rolled in would be another good topic. The really bad car fails and stuff. So I
Oh
definitely want
yeah.
to do some NASCAR. I definitely want to do some JDM stuff, some mechanical fails, and like you said, just rolled in customer states kind of stuff. Fun fact: I actually just had one of those the other day at work. Customer states, vehicle died on side of road. I go out, try to start it. It would start and like splutter and die. I'm like, oh, maybe it's out of gas. I checked the gas gauge. Now it's got 3/4 of a tank in it, and I could like get it to run, but then it'd die again. I put it on a jump pack for a second, and it like seemed to help, but didn't. And I'm like, I almost wonder maybe it's bad alternator or something. I pushed it inside, checked the codes. Yeah, it was out of gas. The gas gauge was wrong, and the dude just never checked it. He's like, I was wondering why I was on 3/4 of a tank for like almost 3 weeks. I'm like, dude, 3 weeks, fuel gauge never moved. He was driving it every day to work, never questioned it. I'm like,
You cannot have infinite gas.
I know, but that's what he thought. He's like, I thought this was getting awful good mileage. I was really excited. I'm thinking, you didn't mention that to me when you came in for service. Nope, had to test and find out the hard way. I put 4 gallons of gas down his throat and charged him $50 for the trouble. So, like you gotta be kidding, people. They seriously will have cars towed in for that. The killer is when you have them towed in for no fuel and the gauge actually works. I've had that too. Towed car in, started the car, tried to start the car, won't start. My dad looks, he's like, how much fuel's it got in it? I said, well, gas gauge says empty. I said, but it's an old Chevy. I don't know if it works or not. I hear him on the tank. Thwank. Just echoed. I'm like, is that the fuel tank? He went, yeah, go down and get 5 gallons of gas. Sure enough, put 5 gallons of gas in it, started the Uplander, moved it down to the bottom lot. I'm like, you gotta be kidding, people. $150 tow bill to find out you needed gas.
But yeah, let's just discuss that on another time, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm really dead tired.
Yep.
All right, so yep, that's it for that. And
until next
you
time.
got your,
what were you gonna say?
yeah, I was gonna say you got the button on start. We do have someone to raid, and
do we? Who's on?
I think we do have someone to raid.
Who is it? I'm pulling
give me
up.
a moment. Is she on still or no?
You talking about Miyu?
Yeah, I think Miyuki's on, right?
She is indeed on.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can
Let's go ahead and raid her.
We can send it her way. Where's my chat? I lost my chat. That's not good. Oh, there it is. Got it. All right, so raid. Whoops, I can spell. M-I-Y. Yuki. She has a really long username.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and raid is queued up. Thank you guys all for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a great night.
Later. And Soji,